Imagine sitting alone in your living room late at night. The day is over, your body is tired, your analytical mind is quieter than usual, the television is playing in the background while you check your phone. Then suddenly the music changes, the screen becomes darker. A serious voice begins speaking, a person appears in pain, a family looks helpless, a warning flashes across the screen, and within seconds, you are no longer casually watching. You are leaning forward, your attention has been captured, your body has changed, your breathing may be slightly shallower. The mind is now asking, could this happen to me? And that question is exactly where the sale begins. Not with the product, not with the solution, not even with logic. It begins with fear. Why does fear sell so effectively? Because before the human brain learned how to compare brands, it learned how to survive. Long before shopping malls, social media, television, or advertising agencies existed, your ancestors lived in an environment where failing to notice danger could be fatal. A movement in the bushes mattered, a strange sound mattered, an unfamiliar face mattered, a sudden change in weather mattered. The nervous system that detected danger quickly had a greater chance of keeping the body alive. So the human brain developed a powerful preference. Notice threats first, think later. That preference still lives inside us. The predator may have changed, but the mechanism remains today. The threat may be a disease, a financial collapse, a security risk, a social rejection, a wrinkle, a smell, a failing career, an aging body, a child falling behind, a home that is not sufficiently protected, or a life that appears less successful than someone else's. Modern marketing rarely needs to invent the survival system, it only needs to activate it. Think about the structure of many advertisements. First, they show you a problem, then they intensify it, then they make the problem feel personal, and finally, they offer relief. Your skin is aging, your child may be unsafe, your data may be stolen, your retirement may be uncertain, your breath may be unpleasant, your home may contain invisible danger, your competitors may be moving ahead. You may already have a problem without knowing it. Notice the pattern. Before the product becomes desirable, your current state must become uncomfortable because a person who feels complete is difficult to sell unnecessary completion to. A person who feels safe is difficult to sell unnecessary protection to. A person who feels sufficient is difficult to convince that one more purchase will finally make them enough. So, effective fear based marketing does not begin by saying, here is something useful. It quietly asks, what if something is wrong? And once that question enters the mind, attention narrows around the possibility of danger. Picture two advertisements for the same security system. The first says our system contains advanced sensor and a reliable mobile application. Useful information, reasonable information, but emotionally almost nothing happens. The second begins with a dark house, a sound at the window, a child sleeping upstairs, a shadow moving near the door. Then the screen goes blank and a sentence appear, would your family be protected? Now the product is no longer simply technology. It has become safety, responsibility, love, protection, and perhaps even guilt also. The second advertisement The second advertisement may be remembered more easily because it did not merely present information, it created an emotional event. This is the crucial distinction. Information tells you what something is, emotion tells the brain that it matters. Fear is not persuasive only because it feels unpleasant. Fear is persuasive because it reorganizes attention. When you feel safe, your awareness can remain broad. You can reflect, compare, question, consider alternatives. But when the nervous system senses danger, attention narrows. The source of the threat becomes psychologically dominant. Everything else becomes temporarily less important. This response is useful during a real emergency. If a vehicle is moving towards you, you do not need a philosophical discussion, you need immediate action. But when the same survival mechanism is activated by carefully designed images, music, language, and repetition, the urgency may belong more to the message than to the actual situation. And yet, the body can still react. This is where advertising psychology becomes deeply interesting. A message does not enter an empty mind, it enters a living nervous system. It enters through attention. It becomes stronger through emotion. And it becomes familiar through repetition, attention, emotion, repetition. These three elements appear again and again in influence. First, capture attention. Second, changes the emotional state. Third, repeat the association. The product becomes linked with relief. The service becomes linked with safety. The brand becomes linked with belonging. And the absence of that brand becomes linked with risk. After enough repetition, the association can begin feeling natural. You may no longer consciously remember the advertisement, but the feeling can remain. Imagine hearing the same warning once. You may question it, hear it 10 times, and it becomes familiar. Hear it from several different voices, and it begins to feel socially confirmed. See it accompanied by dramatic images, and it becomes emotionally charged. Now, hear it from someone wearing a white coat or standing in a newsroom or speaking with calm authority, and the message gains credibility. Nothing about this guarantees that the message is false. That is important. A warning may be accurate, a product may be valuable, a risk may be real. The ethical question is not whether all fear should disappear from communication. The question is fear being used to inform your judgment or to bypass it? There is a major difference between responsible warning and emotional manipulation. Responsible warning gives you context, proportion, evidence, options, time to think. Manipulation often gives you urgency without context, emotion without proportion, certainty without nuance. A problem amplified beyond perspective, and a solution conveniently waiting for purchase. Responsible communication respects your ability to decide. Manipulative communication tries to make discomfort decide for you. Think about a health message. A responsible message might say, this condition has certain risk factors. Here is what is known. Here is what remains uncertain. And here are the options you can discuss with a qualified professional. A fear driven message may instead show the most extreme possible outcome. Attach ominous music, repeat a threatening statistics, and leave you imagining that the worst case scenario is already moving towards you. The difference is not simply wordings. It is the state in which the decision is being created. Are you choosing from clarity or reacting from fear? Because the same person with the same intelligence can make very different decisions depending on the state of the nervous system. Now, consider the news. A peaceful day across millions of homes is not usually considered breaking news. But conflict is, danger is, collapse is, outrage is, disaster is. Why? Because threat captures attention and attention has economic value. A headline that calmly says most things continued normally today does not create urgency, but a headline that says you may not be prepared for what happens next opens a loop in the mind. You need to know, you need to click, you need relief from uncertainty. Fear does not merely sell products, fear can sell attention itself. And in the modern world, attention is one of the most valuable commodities available. You may believe that you are consuming content for free, but whenever a platform is designed around advertising, your attention is part of the business model. The longer you remain emotionally engaged, the more valuable that attention becomes. This does not mean every journalist, marketer, platform, or creator is consciously trying to harm you. Most systems simply reward what keeps people watching, and fear, anger, conflict, and uncertainty are remarkably effective at doing that. So, the system gradually learns, show people more of what prevents them from looking away. And because danger is difficult to ignore, fear repeatedly wins the competition for attention. Imagine walking through a market centuries ago. One merchant says, "My cloth is well made." Another shouts, "Without this cloth, winter may destroy your family." Which voice reaches you first? The second. Not necessarily because the claim is more truthful, but because it activates a danger system. The survivor brain does not first ask, "Is this balanced?" It first asks, "Could this matter?" That tiny opening, "Could this happen?" can be enough to shift your state. And once the state changes, the message that follows may receive far more attention than it otherwise would. This is why fear based influence often uses a very specific sequence. It does not begin by demanding that you believe everything. It begins by making you imagine. Imagine losing your health. Imagine losing your status. Imagine being rejected. Imagine your child suffering. Imagine being left behind. Imagine discovering this danger too late. The moment you create an internal picture, your body may begin responding to the picture. The event is not happening externally, but a version of it is now being rehearsed internally. And the stronger the emotional rehearsal, the more meaningful the proposed solution can feel. The mechanism is not limited to commercial advertising. It appears in politics, relationship, leadership, parenting, education, even motivation. A political message may say, "Unless we win, everything you value is at risk." A controlling partner may say, "You will never find anyone else." A manager may say, "If you make one mistake, your career is finished." A parent may say, "If you do not come first, your future is ruined." A motivational message may say, "If you rest, someone else will replace you." Different settings, same pictures, create danger, narrow attention, offer obedience as safety. Now pause. Have you ever purchased something not because you deeply wanted it, but because you wanted an uncomfortable feeling to disappear? Perhaps You bought a course because you feared being left behind, a cosmetic product because you feared aging, an insurance policy because an advertisement made uncertainty feel unbearable, a gadget because you feared becoming irrelevant, a membership because you feared exclusion. Again, the product itself may have been useful. The important question is, did you choose the product or did you purchase emotional relief? Because fear often sells two things simultaneously, the object and the temporary removal of the emotion created before the object appeared. Here is a simple experiment. The next time an advertisement strongly affects you, do not immediately ask, do I want this? Ask, what emotion did this message create immediately before presenting the solution? Did it create fear, lack, insecurity, urgency, shame, comparison, loneliness? Then ask, if this emotion had not been created, would the product still feel equally necessary? That question restores distance, and distance restores choice. This is where your expertise as a conscious human being begins. Not in becoming immune to emotion, that would be impossible and perhaps undesirable. Emotion contains intelligence, fear can protect you, concern can prepare you, urgency can move you. But conscious living requires recognizing when a natural protective system is being deliberately activated. You do not need to reject every warning, you need to examine the architecture of the message. What is being shown? What is being omitted? What emotion is being created? What action am I being rushed towards? Who benefits if I remain afraid? And would I make the same decision from a regulated state? Let us make this even more practical. Before making an emotional charged decision, create a pause. One breath may not be enough. Give yourself time. Walk away from the screen. Return later. Read another source. Look for the base rate, not only the dramatic example. Ask whether the image represents what is typical or merely what is memorable. Discuss the decision with someone who is not emotionally invested in the outcome. Fear loves speed. Clarity often requires space. There is another reason fear remains powerful. The relief it promises can feel immediate. Imagine an advertisement making you worried for 30 seconds, then revealing a simple solution. Your nervous system experiences a small emotional journey, safe, threatened, relieved. That relief can become associated with the brand. The product did not solve a real problem during those 30 seconds, it solved the emotional tension created by the message itself. This is an elegant form of conditioning. The brand becomes the exit door from the room the advertisement first placed you inside. And this brings us to the deeper issue. Fear does not only influence what you buy. Repeated fear can influence the kind of world you believe you inhabit. If you repeatedly consume messages suggesting that people are dangerous, the world begins feeling less trustworthy. If every headline predicts collapse, the future begins feeling fragile. If every advertisement reminds you that something is wrong with your body can begin feeling like a collection of potential failures. If every success message tells you that you are falling behind, rest begins feeling irresponsible. The individual message may last 30 seconds, but the emotional worldview created by thousands of similar messages can last for years. This is Dr. Vijay Arora. Layer I want you to consider. In coaching and therapeutic work, people often arrive believing that the fear is proof. I feel afraid. Therefore, the danger must be real. But an emotion can be genuine without its interpretation being accurate. Your fear is real as an experience. That does not automatically make every story attached to it true. Sometimes fear is responding to the present, sometimes it is responding to the past, and sometimes it is responding to a message intentionally designed to activate it. Emotional truth and factual truth are not always the same. Learning to separate them is psychological freedom. The TNIC movement, the most effective fear based message, does not force you to buy, it makes you afraid and allows you to call the purchase your own decision. That is why awareness matters. Because manipulation becomes most powerful when influence feels like independence. So, the next time fear enters through a screen, pause before allowing it to become a belief. Notice your body, notice your breathing, notice the urgency, notice the story beginning to form. Then ask, what do I know? What am I assuming? What evidence is missing? What would I decide if I were calm? You are not trying to suppress fear, you are teaching fear that it does not automatically receive control. Fear is ancient. It helped humanity survive. It still protects us from genuine danger. But in the marketplace of attention, fear can also be rented, packaged, amplified, and sold back to us as urgency. The solution is not to become fearless, the solution is to become conscious. Because a conscious mind can hear a warning without surrendering its judgment. It can feel emotion without becoming emotion. It can examine a message without immediately obeying it. And perhaps real freedom is not living in a world without influence. Perhaps it is finally being able to recognize when influence is happening. Tonight, as you watch television, scroll through your phone, or read the news, observe one thing: which message asks for your attention by first asking for your fear. Do not fight it, do not immediately believe it. Simply see the pattern: problem, emotion, urgency, solution. And once you see the pattern, you can no longer experience it in exactly the same way. Because fear may still knock on the door, but awareness decides whether it enters and whether it is allowed to make the decision. But fear alone cannot program the mind. Something else must happen. The emotion must capture your attention, the message must enter at the right moment, and an association must begin forming inside the brain. In next episode, we explore why your brain may be easier to influence than you think, and how attention, emotion, and conditioning can quietly open the doorway to the subconscious. Next episode, your brain is easier to hack than you think.